jóvenes alrededor del mundo requieren habilidades y competencias para enfrentar un mundo globalizado lleno de desafíos.
Nuestra familia Genuine crece alrededor del mundo, se hace más grande y más fuerte, traspasa fronteras, conectando mentes y corazones a través de experiencias.
Estamos a un clic de distancia. Podrás llevarnos en tu casa, en tu carro, en tu bolsillo y en tu corazón.
Genuine Digital School es más.
Más tiempo para tu familia.
Más tiempo para estar en casa.
Más tiempo para aprender.
Más tiempo para soñar y crecer.
Más tiempo para ti.
En Genuine creemos que siempre puedes imaginar más.
Hacer más.
Ser más.
Não somos uma escola, somos a casa digital que estará sempre por perto.
It provides you with education, love and support in every step of the way. ¿Quieres que tu hijo obtenga el diploma americano al graduarse de secundaria? Llegaste al lugar correcto. En Genuine nos hace felices ofrecerte educación virtual de calidad que prepara a tu hijo para un futuro exitoso. Tu hijo tendrá un título reconocido internacionalmente y podrá presentarse a universidades en tu país, Estados Unidos o cualquier lugar del mundo.
La pandemia creo que fue algo muy acertado en que encontráramos este gran colegio. Para ella fue haberse ganado la lotería.
¿Listo para dar el primer paso hacia un futuro brillante para tu hijo? Contáctanos para saber cómo.
Están todavía entrando niños, vamos a esperar un momento. Listo, Mauricio, ya, ¿ok? Hello everyone, good morning. Thank you for joining us in this new meeting live. Welcome to all the families joining us from Instagram or YouTube. Today, our meeting live will be in English, okay? And the dynamic is the same. Our guest will share her story, and then we will have 20 minutes for you to ask your questions. You can ask questions in any language, English, Spanish, or Portuguese, okay? Carla Núñez and Carolina Ramirez will lead our meeting live today. And our super guest, Ana García. Hello, Ana. Thank you, Ana, for your time today. We are happy to meet you and learn from you. Go ahead, Carla and Carolina. Let's start.
Thank you, Lina. It's amazing to see how many students we have here today. Thanks, everyone. Whoa, I'm impressed. Ana, thanks for your time. It's amazing to have you here. We're very happy to have you with us. Talk about one of the things we like most. As you all know, Beating Life is the space where we exchange ideas, talk about technology, entrepreneurship, business, and much more. And this Beating Life is super special as we are celebrating the World Entrepreneurship Day, which is celebrating on the 16th of April. So the idea today is to talk about this, to talk about the aim of promoting the entrepreneurial spirit, and of course, encouraging our students and this beautiful generation to bring ideas, right? So before we jump into this conversation with Carolina, we also love meeting our guests. We also love to know every detail of our guests. So why don't you start telling everyone here who is Ana? And we like to know everything, okay? So please, details. Tell us all about Ana.
Great. Thank you so much. Can you hear me well?
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm very happy to be here and to be talking to you. So my name is Ana. I am 28 years old. I'm from Brazil. I am from a city called Goiânia, which is in a region that is in the central area of Brazil. And basically, growing up, I always thought that, I was going to leave my city to go somewhere else for higher education, to go to college. But I never thought that I would leave my country. I never thought I would study abroad from Brazil, because that seemed too far away for me. But that's what happened when I was in high school. I did this study abroad program for the summer. And I went to Harvard University for a program called secondary school program, where they have high school students from all over the world. And I studied there for 8 weeks. And it was very challenging. I had never seen myself in such, in such a place. I mean, it's one of the best universities in the world, and it was the kind of thing that you look and you think, this is not for me. This is too hard. So I had never imagined myself being there, but it just happened, and I spent 8 weeks there, and it was really tough, but I did it. And then when I came back to Brazil and came back to my high school, I just realized that, maybe I wanted more. For those who know, Brazil, our school system is very traditional. So the way of enrollment in college in Brazil is basically through one exam, just one test that you can take just once a year. And I don't know, I just felt like I didn't fit into that system, into that education model. And that's when, by the end of my high school, in my last year of high school, I decided to apply to college in the US. It was very hard for me because I didn't know anyone that had ever gone to college in the US. So I had no one to talk to. I had no one to exchange ideas with. There was no one encouraging me to do that. So it was very lonely, this process. But it worked out, and I went to the University of Virginia, which is a very renowned institution in the US. It's a public university. It's one of the oldest universities in the US. It's very big. And I went there for 4 years. I majored in international relations, but it was really great to explore, the liberal arts curriculum. We can talk about it later if you guys want, but basically, you can take classes in any department. You don't have to just stick to that one major. So, I took cinema, I took Buddhism, I took world history, I took French and German. And so that's really interesting when you have this, an education that lets you explore different things, so you don't have to be stuck in that little box. And that made a lot of sense for me. But actually, during my undergraduate years, I co-founded an organization called BRASA, which is the Brazilian Student Association. And it was I think the most entrepreneurial thing that I've done so far, and it's what I'm most proud of, because that was, something I was so young, and I dedicated so much time into that, and I was president of that organization later, but it grew a lot. Today we have 10,000 members, and I'm still involved with the organization. But it was, I don't know, the most exciting thing that I've done. and I still love it. My best friends are still, also Brazilian students that were studying abroad and that were engaged in this organization. So I think most of what I've learned from entrepreneurship came from that experience. And then after I graduated, I came back to Brazil. I decided I loved studying abroad, but I felt like it made so much more sense to me to work in something that is connected to my home country. And so I came back to Brazil. I worked in a big corporation here for 2 years. And I learned a lot about business and about management. I worked specifically in marketing and innovation. And then by 2019, I decided that I wanted to start my own thing. And I wanted to work with education, which is something that I started working when I was at Brasa during college. I always loved education. So yeah, and then I left this big company where I worked, and I found these 2 investors that actually wanted to start, an education business, which is where I work now, which is called Inteli. It is a nonprofit organization called Institute of Technology and Leadership. We are basically a university that offers programs in the field of computer science. And it's been really fun to create an university from zero. We're now in our 3rd year of operations. So yeah, it's been a long journey, but very, very exciting. I love to start things from zero and just like build things. It's a bit scary, but it can be very fun. And yeah, so that's many details about me so far.
And we love that. And we're still receiving students, so welcome everyone. So we are talking to Ana García, and I love your details. So I think it's important to mention that, yes, you're here to talk about your entrepreneurial experience and all the things. You gave us a little clue here during your presentation. But before we jump into Carolina, let's talk a bit more about Inteli. What do you think? You could tell us, like, where is Inteli? What do you do there? Things that you find interesting to tell us.
Sure, great. So Inteli is a university. It stands for Institute of Technology and Leadership, and it's a nonprofit organization. It's located in São Paulo, Brazil, and basically the reason why we created this new university was because we felt that we needed more places, more universities that would foster studies in computer science or just computing in general. And not only that, but when we talk to the big companies, right, the companies that are hiring the most talented people, they say that they feel that students, after they graduate, they don't really know how the real market works. Like, they don't know how to work, right? And that's the thing, like, nobody teaches you how to work, right? You study, you go to school, and you learn all this theory, and you take exams, but you don't really see, like, where am I going to use this in real life? Nobody teaches you that, right? And especially more traditional universities where, they have been teaching the same thing in the same way for the last 50 years. So they don't really want to change, And that's sort of what we wanted to tackle. We wanted to create a university that was more modern, more focused on technology, but in a way that we could teach how that technology is applied in the real world. And we do that through a methodology called project-based learning, where basically our students, they're always doing projects. And these projects, they are done in partnerships with real market companies. So they're always doing projects. They learn the theory, but right after they learn the theory, they know where to apply that theory to develop that part of the project. So for example, in the first year, the first projects that students do, they have to develop a digital game, right? So a gaming that, you know, that one of those games that you play in an app in your phone, right? So they have to develop a game, and it's sort of a fun project because they learn the basics of programming. They learn about design because they have to design the scenes, the characters. They learn about the gaming industry because we also have like business subjects. So they learn about this industry. How do you sell a game? How much do you sell it? How much does it cost to develop a game? And stuff like that. But the thing is, they learn in order to imagine you have this character in the game, and the character, he has to walk, right? He walks to the front, he walks backwards, or he jumps, and he makes movements, right? The character. But in order to do that, they have to learn math. So there is like all these contents in Calculus 1, which is basically the main course any student take when he gets to college. Some of you might even take it in high school, but you take Calculus 1, and you know, so students they learn Calculus 1. They have, you know, they learn the theory, but they understand that, you know, when they study vectors. The vectors, they are an important part to go. It's the equation that goes in the coding that students program that makes the characters move in the game. So that's one example of how, you know, the theory is taught through the application in the project. And that's what we believe that, you know, education can be, you know, fostered. It can be deeper, and it makes more sense when you see how does that work in real life. So this is a summary of our education model. So that's what students, they do 4 projects per year during 4 years. So 16 projects in total. And they're all projects done in partnerships with real companies. So they also get this sense of what's working, how do they work, like what is working really like, because they are doing these projects with companies. So they kind of know what are the challenges, the problems, the difficulties that, you know, the companies, the market face day to day, because they're doing projects that are supposed to solve those problems. So yeah, that's basically Inteli. We also have a very big scholarships program. So half of our students are here on scholarships, and our scholarships, they cover tuition, housing, dining, notebooks, and transportation. So it's a very deep scholarships program. We're very proud of it, and in that way we can have a very diverse group of students. So we have students from over 100 cities in Brazil, and yeah, we're very excited. We're just starting, right? So it's just the beginning, but it's been a very interesting journey.
Amazing, Ana. Thank you very much for sharing about you, for sharing about Inteli. Congratulations on all this. Thank you very much for bringing this to Brazil. It's amazing what you do here.
Thank you.
I think now we are ready to move to know more about your entrepreneurship journey. So guys, be ready to embark on this with Carolina. Thank you, Ana. I'll be here.
Thank you.
Hello, Ana, again, and welcome again. So before we continue, let me tell you that here at Genuine, we are thrilled to have you as our special guest. You know, our community is deeply committed to entrepreneurship, innovation, and technology, which are the fundamental pillars of our educational mission. So these values are linked with our vision of fostering leaders who are capable of transforming the world. So we know your extensive experience and achievements, particularly your role as a collaborator at Inteli and your recognition in the Forbes under 30 list for your contributions to education and entrepreneurship, inspire us to continue on this path. So we are eager to learn from your experience and insights today. Thank you again for joining us. And so I think we can continue with the questions. So
Great.
Ana, do you remember what interested you when you were a child? Was there a specific topic that always captured your attention?
That's a good question. So what I remember the most, what I was most involved with when I was a child is actually that I was a ballerina. So I danced ballet for 13 years. And from 3 to from 4 to 17 years old, and I dedicated so much time to that. I mean, I think I liked it so much because, you know, I think it was beautiful, but also because it was very challenging. Like, you know, it gives you, I think, ballet for me, or I think just sports in general, I mean, it really develops discipline, and you sort of always want to, you know, improve and to be better and to do this movement better or to do that faster, or, you know, to find I don't know, you're always like looking for perfection, you know. I think in sports in general, it kind of fosters you to be more competitive and to be more competent in whatever you're doing. So that was ballet for me, and I think it developed many of these skills that I actually use today for work. So like, I'm very competitive. I have very like high standards. Like, I want things to be done very well, you know. And I think that all came from my experience with ballet.
Okay, wonderful. That's very insightful. So,
and I think just one quick thing is that I remembered when I was like finishing, when I was getting into high school, or like during high school, and, you know, I was getting really good at it because I was almost in the professional level. And I remember like people telling me like, you know, why are you spending so much time doing this? Or like, you're supposed to be studying for your SATs, or, you know, the vestibular, what we have in Brazil, like as if ballet or as if the sports, they were just a hobby. And at the time I was putting into that wouldn't be relevant, you know, because what would actually be relevant would be, you know, the hours that I was spending, you know, in the classroom and, you know, doing exercises or studying and stuff like that. And I, like, looking back, I know that all the time that I spent like practicing, that was just as useful for me and to developing my skills, and as even more if I had been, you know, just studying regularly. Because I think, you know, we have no idea how much these extracurricular activities, you know, these passions that you have on the side, how much they challenge you and how much they bring the best of you when you are doing it. And those things, even though they don't have a result, an obvious result in the short term, they definitely have a deeper result in the long term. And I think that we don't talk about it enough at schools. And I think even parents, some of them like don't really see the value of that activity, like for the you know, the children, like in the short run. But I think in the long run, ballet was one of the things that shaped me the most in terms of skill sets. So I think that's an advice I would give you. If, you know, someone is like, oh, you should, you know, stop, play less basketball or play less, I don't know, you know, this thing that you do on the side that is your passion that you love, but people telling you to spend less time with that, I think you should challenge them to see what are the things that are not obvious, but that you're actually learning a lot about it while you're doing it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. So building on that, what role did your education play in your interest in, let's see, in technology and leadership? Was there a teacher or a course that particularly marked you?
Yeah.
What about that?
So, I mean, I always studied really hard. So I was never, you know, I never had a straight A's grades. But I always like was really, really hardworking, and I studied really hard. And I had one particular teacher that was a math teacher that he had this. It was sort of like an extracurricular. It was a course on logical thinking that, you know, I took for many years. It's sort of across all grades, basically. And I did it like twice a week for many years, like, I don't know, 8 years maybe, until the end of my high school. And I think that teacher, he really like helped me shaping my critical thinking in general. So not only he would help me with math, and something that I actually started taking this course because on the 5th grade, I had a really bad grade in a math exam when we were starting to learn fractions, and I couldn't understand it. Like, it was so confusing, and I had the worst grade of my life, and, you know, I was devastated. And so my mom, she found this teacher that had this extra course on basically logical thinking, and I started doing that I wanted first to have a better grade in the next exam, and I did, obviously, but I just stayed there for like 8 years. And after that, I would always like have very good grades at math. But more than that, he really like stimulated me to be critical, like to criticize, to question, to ask like more questions, and not just to be you know, comfortable with any answer that I was given. So it was really something that shaped my personality, actually, you know, to ask a lot of questions. And also I remember when I decided to apply to college in the US, I had to take the SATs. And that was in my last year of college. I had never even heard of the SATs. I didn't know what that was. And they didn't have it in my city, so I have to travel to another city to take it. I didn't know how to study for it. It was even really hard to find the books. And this teacher, he actually helped me preparing for the SATs. He also didn't know what the SATs were, but he learned about it, and then he would help me study for it. And I had a very good grade in math in the SATs. But I think the most impact he had in me was to, like, it really shaped my personality to be someone that questions a lot, and sort of like really, even though I'm not like I don't have a technical education in technology and computing, I can like sort of understand, you know, the basic logic that is behind things, and that's applicable for anything, right? So like really trying to understand what is behind, you know, what you're saying, what do you work with, what is this project, and like what are the main pieces here, and how do I connect them, to ask the right questions and stuff like that. So that's basically critical thinking, right? And you're going to use that for anything in your life. So that was the professor that had the most impact in my life in that sense.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's move on and tell me, during your childhood, was there a leader or an entrepreneur you admire? And think about how did that person inspire you to follow us the similar path?
I think it's very cliche, my answer. But I think my father inspired me a lot because he had also moved to a different country right after he graduated. So he was an engineer, and then he went to work in other countries, like building highways. So he lived in somewhere in Africa, Mauritania. I'm not sure what's the word in English, and after in Iraq. So like building highways like in the middle of the desert, and for many years. And he was very young. He was like 22 years old. So that was very inspiring to me in terms of like to have the courage, to move to a completely different place where you don't know anyone, where you don't know the language, where you don't know the culture, and sometimes even live under conditions that are not the comfortable ones that you are used to. But really just having the courage to face it and to do the work, to do hard work. And there's so much you learn from these experiences that, when he came back to Brazil and he started his own company, and he did very well, but mostly because of the things that he learned under very difficult conditions. And I think that was like growing up, knowing that he had done that. For me, it just made it normal. The idea that, I'm gonna leave my home, I'm gonna leave my family, I'm gonna move to a different place, I'm gonna learn this new culture, learn this new language. For me, it was just normal, and I know he had done it, and so for them, they always showed me that was an option. Because I think that's the problem, like when you're growing up or you're a teenager or you're in high school, like you don't know what your options are. You have, the things around you that are the most common, what people around you, what they've done. But sometimes there's so many more options that you just don't know that they exist. They don't know that they are there. And those are options. Those are things that you can actually do. And sometimes you just, first, you don't know they exist. They don't know that they're there. And when you learn that they exist, you just think it's not for you because you don't know anyone who has done that before. So it's really hard to imagine yourself doing that. And I think that's what's missing in our education in general. I think children knowing that they can do so many more things and so many, there's so many more options out there they just don't know about, and that, if they just put in the work, they can do it. It's not as hard as, it seems to be initially. So
Okay, awesome, interesting point. So let's continue. Let me think. Was there any project or idea that you tried to carry out when you were a child or where you were in school?
Yeah, so I think I did an interesting volunteering project when I was in high school, which was basically this project where we're trying to raise money to build a library in this city that is very small. It's more like a village in the interior of Brazil. And that was something that I was very, like, I spent like 2 years very engaged in that project. Like I would go to the local schools and I would see what books do they have and like how do they read the books, how do they collect the books. And then, we started doing this fundraising, and like we found a place where, the mayor would let us build like the library there and stuff like that. So I got really involved in the community, and that was a very special project for me. In the end, we didn't raise all the money we needed to like actually build the library, but we got a lot of donations from books, and then we sort of organized it in the local public high school. But I think the main project for me was actually when I was in college, right after I started college, which was Brasa, and that was something that I was engaged with for my whole undergraduate life, for 4 years. And so I co-founded this organization, and the idea was to connect all the Brazilian students that were living abroad, that were studying abroad. And because basically we realized that there was a bunch of us in many places in the world, but we didn't know each other. And it's very lonely, like when you're living in another country, and there are things that you miss from home. Like I missed pão de queijo, I missed brigadeiro, I missed festa junina, like things that are very like cultural from your country. And nobody else is talking about that or doing that, and you sort of miss it. So there is this bond you create when you meet someone from your home country in another country. You have this really strong bond because like there's this very unique thing in common that you two have, So we wanted basically to connect all Brazilian students who lived abroad, and that's what Brasa did. And I learned a lot in that project, like from fundraising to marketing to product development. We organized these huge conferences where we would gather like 400 Brazilian students in one university for 1 week to just discuss Brazil. And then we would fly in, entrepreneurs, politicians from Brazil just to discuss Brazil. So I learned a lot about like events organization, basically, and operations and logistics. So I think that was a project that I started from scratch. I was involved in it for many years. I still am. And I'm very proud of it because it really, it grew and it had, a big impact. We have many mentees that are like high school students that we also help them in the application to get into college in the US. So we've had like hundreds of kids that were Brasa mentees who got accepted into colleges abroad. I think the most important thing about when you think about a project that you are involved with or developing is to think about the sustainability of the project. So like maybe you dedicate so much time doing this, but like if you're not there, would this project die? Right? So if you leave because, I don't know, maybe you got sick 1 week, maybe you had to move to a different city, maybe, I don't know, something happened and you just can't do that anymore. Like, so all this impact, all this project, does that depend 100% in your work? Because that's something that, I challenge you to think about is, do you have a team? Do you have other people that you are engaging to be part of this project that can carry on this idea, if you're not able to anymore because you find a nicer project, you move to a different school, you have to reallocate your time. So that is my advice to you, to like whatever project that you are engaging in, think about the sustainability of this project, so it's not going to depend 100% in your work.
So that lets me to the next question. That is, if you could give advice to your younger self, especially when you were in school, what would you say?
I think I would definitely tell myself to have more self-confidence. I think especially this new generation, so for all you people that are watching us here, young people, I think especially your generation is even a lot tougher than mine was, in terms of there's so much comparison, right? You're always like, you have so much, like you go on you go on Instagram, there's like so many people, and all their lives, they look so nice, you know, and you go on TikTok and they have so many like cool videos, like doing cool things, and so you just have this idea that everyone around you sort of, you know, have it better than you. And when in reality that's just not true. Like, you know, whatever they are showing in social media, it's just one very small part of their lives, and you don't see the rest. But you're just seeing thousands of small parts, of perfect small parts of everybody's life, so you just think that your life, you know, it's not that good, and or that you're not smart enough, or you're not pretty enough, or you don't have, I don't know, enough money, or it's just never enough. So I think there is comparison is a very, very dangerous thing. And I would definitely tell you to be careful with that. I remember when I was in college, and I have these other Brazilian friends that were also co-founding Brasa with me. And it was really hard because we studied and we worked at the same time. Like I worked like at Brasa for like 40 hours per week, which is like an actually full-time job. And I just couldn't do it. It was like, it's too much. Like I can't manage all of this. And I would look around, and, you know, the other kids at Brasa, I thought that they could do it. They were doing not just a major, they were doing a double major, and then they were doing like a double minor, and then they also spoke 4 languages, and they also had social lives, and, you know, they also have girlfriends and boyfriends, and they all look great, and they all went to the gym like 3 times a week. And I was like, how do people even do this, you know? And so I thought, you know, I then I have to leave this organization, like, because I can't, like, I'm not smart as them, you know, I can't do it all the same way that they do. So, and then obviously later I went on to understand that that's just not true. Like they don't have all of that, you know, they will have other problems in some other ways that are different than my problems, but we all have problems. You just don't see the problems that others have. You just see your problems. But the thing is, be careful with comparison. And what I would tell my younger self was definitely to be more self-confident, because I had very low self-esteem. Like I never, like if you told myself 10 years ago where I would be now, I would never believe it, you know? So I think that it's very sad, especially for girls. They tend to have lower self-esteem, especially, you know, in younger education, like when they're 13 years old or when they're 14, 16 years old. Those are difficult periods. And so yeah, I think we definitely need to work in the self-esteem and in the self-esteem of our kids, because I think that has so much impact in how you see yourself and what you push yourself to do. And like if you don't have self-esteem, you will never allow yourself to dream big. You will never allow yourself to challenge yourself, to, you know, do something harder. And then when you do it, you might surprise yourself and you see, oh my gosh, I can do this. So maybe, you know, let me try something even harder. And then you realize you also do it. So, and I mean, if you fail, it's fine. It's normal. You just have to work more, like study more, dedicate more. Like eventually you're going to do it. So yeah, I think definitely self-confidence and working in self-esteem, and be really careful with comparison. Do not compare yourself all the time. It's just not healthy. And most of the time, it's not true.
Yes, wonderful. Self-esteem and no comparison.
Yeah.
Those are the keys. Okay, Ana, thank you very much for sharing your insights with us. So I think we are now excited to turn to our students' questions and continue this enriching discussion. So I don't know if Carla, can you help me with that? Let's see who is here. I don't know, maybe we could continue it. Well, let me see. Let's see, Arthur. What about you, Arthur? Go ahead with your question.
So, hello everyone, and I have 3 questions.
Wow. Okay, let's hear them.
My first question is, what is your favorite Brazilian food?
Okay. My favorite Brazilian food. I think strogonoff. You know, strogonoff. Yes, with chips. I think that's my favorite. So it's basically, for those who don't know, strogonoff is basically chip chops of filet mignon with this cream sauce, basically.
With meat, yes, delicious. My next question is, can I ask the third question in Portuguese?
Yeah.
Então, minha terceira pergunta. Quando você estava no colégio, na Universidade de Virgínia, qual era a tua matéria favorita? Tua aula favorita? Tua matéria?
Very nice. So what Arthur asked me was that when I was in college, what was my favorite subject, right?
Right.
Let me think. I think I had this class on leadership that was, I think it was my favorite, basically because so it was within the Department of International Relations, right? Where basically we study the relationships between countries, like what is their history, how do they make agreements, and what are the commercial arrangements between them, like how do wars start and stuff like that. So that's what international relations study. And I had this one class which was in leadership that I really liked because it gave us more like freedom. So at the end of this classroom, we had to make a project that we could choose any topic. And we had to do a lot of research under that project. And then by the end, we had to make a suggestion in terms of public policy. So what kind of policy should a government implement in that field to solve this problem that you brought in this project? And the professor also sent this the best project he would send to Washington, D.C., to like a government committee that would evaluate it. And I chose a topic that was very it's a very sensitive, very difficult topic to study, which was human trafficking, which was really sad and very tough. But so I studied a lot about this team, and it was very, like, it was something that I don't think they would have taught me that in college. Like, they wouldn't have a class about that if it wasn't a topic that I found on my own, and I did the research, and I had a lot of freedom to like study about it, and and I got very engaged in this team. So I really like classes where they give you freedom to explore a topic that you actually want. So that was, I think, my favorite class. My favorite course. But there was another one when you were asking your question that I thought that was a very important, like, if you ask me, the most important class that I took in college wasn't my favorite, but the most important was statistics. So statistics was very important because it's something that you learn about, something that you're going to use later, which is basically data analytics, how to analyze data. And that is something that you're going to need and use in any profession you come to have, like in anything. That's very important to learn how to analyze information in a mathematical approach. So that was the most important class that I took. It's called statistics.
Okay, so thank you for answering my questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arthur. Arthur, where are you right now? And what grade are you in?
Well, now I am in Bogota, Colombia, and I am in 5th grade.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Okay, let's continue with Sofia Leal. Sofia, there you go. Go ahead.
Hi, Sofia.
Hi, my name is Sofia. Okay, my question is, what is the most important lesson that you have learned in your career or your life?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I think I'm gonna tell you the most important lesson I learned when I was in college first, okay? So I think it has to do with sort of forgiving yourself, in terms of we are so ambitious, and there's so many I always wanted to like do more and do bigger and do better, and it was just I didn't know how to deal with frustration, basically. And when something didn't work out, I got so frustrated, and I thought, this is the end of the world. Like, it's the end of the world if I did not get the SAT score that I thought that I need, because if I don't get this SAT score, then I'm not going to get into college, and then my life will end. It's going to be a disaster, and I will never be successful. So I think when we're young, like when we don't know how to deal with failure, how to deal with frustration, so you really think that the impact of that failure in your life is so much bigger than it actually is. What happened when I didn't have the best SAT score? Nothing. I took it again. So I think that we tend to, like, when I was probably your age or a bit older, like until when I was in college, I thought that, the failures that I was having, they were like the end of the world. They were catastrophic. Like, I would never be successful. And then I would just feel, then I would be really harsh on myself. And that would put me down, and that would even make me have even a lower self-esteem. So it's really not just not healthy. First, your problems aren't as big as you think they are, like proportionally. So, and if you fail, like it's fine. Like, it's not the end of the world. That's a guarantee. It's not like it doesn't define who you are or who you're going to be just because of that one failure that you have. How do you solve failures? Like, how do you deal with that? Work harder. That's it. That's the only way. So you either give up and start crying and go in this catastrophic mood, or you just sit down and work harder, a lot harder. It's gonna work out eventually. And I started saying, forgive yourself, is that in the sense of forgive yourself for the failures. It's fine. Like, don't be so harsh on yourself, because I think the process of how much you work, how much you have to deal with the pain of the failure, and how much work you have to put in to be successful next time, I think that process, that's the most important thing that you're going to take in your life when you go to the the work world, you know, that resilience, that grit, you know.
Thank you so much. I appreciate a lot.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Sofia, and thank you, Ana. So let's continue with Gabriel Figueiredo. So Gabriel, are you there? Go ahead with your question. First, tell us where are you right now and what grade are you in? And then let's continue with your question.
Oh, now I was able to unmute. Hi, I'm Gabriel. I'm Brazilian, but I'm in Lisbon right now. I'm
Hi,
16.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So I was wondering if you did NA.
Okay. No. I did not. No.
Oh, nice.
So actually, but let me explain something. When I was in my last year of high school, I think NA was the last year before NA became mandatory. So NA wasn't mandatory in my last year of high school. Okay.
Okay.
So back then, you weren't obliged to take NA. You could take it and then you could, you know, substitute it in other vestibulares, right? And then in the year after that, NA became mandatory for everyone. So that's why I didn't take it. I didn't have to, but I did do some vestibulares in Brazil. But then they were like specific tests in each university. But my third year of high school, my last year of high school, I focused 100% in the American application because I knew I wanted to go to school there, and I hadn't done anything to prepare myself to the application the years prior. So I had to do, you know, everything. I had never taken the SATs. I had never taken the TOEFL. I hadn't ever like written any of those essays So I really focused my senior year in preparing the application.
Ok, obrigado.
De nada.
Obrigada, Gabriel. Obrigada, Ana. So let's continue with other question. Let's listen to Lenny Asael. Could you please share your question with us?
Hello, Lenny. But I am the sister of Lenny.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi, we are from Brazil.
Yes.
Oh.
I have two questions. The first is before it go difficult for you to learn English, because in the first year in my school I don't know nothing of English.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I studied English. I started studying English when I was very young. So when I think when I was 6 or 7 years old, and I would, you know, take English classes like 2 times a week, and yeah, so I learned it like very slowly, you know, until I was in high school. I was still taking English classes, so I learned English very slowly. And
yes, the English traditional in the schools in Brazil is very bad.
Yes, it's very bad. You're right. So I had to take like extra classes. I went to another school twice a week just to take English classes. But I think if you just moved to do you live in the US?
No.
So, but if you just move to a different country where everyone speaks that language, you know, all the time, it's probably very hard in the beginning. But I'm pretty sure you're going to learn a lot faster, you know, and especially when you are a kid, your brain actually has more elasticity to learn things faster, especially languages. So
We know like 5 languages, different.
You know 5 languages? Wow.
Yes.
See, you have
Yeah.
a lot of brain
Like,
and elasticity for languages.
Which
languages?
And
We learn one. I learned Chinese and he learned Japanese.
Wow, that's very, very impressive, guys. That's amazing. Congratulations.
And when you go to AUS, the people speak. Oh, he's Brazilian. Speak English slow because he don't understand too much, like anything like that.
I think so. When I went to college in the US, my level of English was already very good because you have to take an English test to prove that you have English proficiency. And you need to have a minimum grade in order to be accepted into college in the US. So my English was already very good, but still, I thought that especially in the first 1 or 2 years, I felt it was harder for me to understand. Like I didn't understand 100% of everything that was said in classrooms. Okay, so I didn't follow the teachers, I feel what they were saying in the same speed that people that are native in English did. So for me it was also slower for me to do all the readings because you have to read a lot of materials before you go to class, and you have to read a lot of books, and I was a slow reader. So I spent a lot more time doing the readings, and when I got to class, I couldn't understand everything that the professors were saying. So that was very difficult, and it probably took me 1 or 2 years to be more comfortable with the language.
Wonderful, guys. Thank you for your questions.
And Ana, more.
Okay, there you go.
De onde você é aqui do Brasil? Que parte?
Eu sou de Goiânia.
Ah, Goiânia. Legal.
Tem muitos alunos nessa escola de Goiânia.
A gente é de Recife. A gente vive em Recife.
E essa é a nossa gatinha.
Que tá aqui no fundo.
Ai, que linda! Muito legal, adorei conhecer vocês.
Obrigada, também.
É legal conhecer muitos brasileiros, eu não sou de lá.
Muito legal, né? Também adoro.
Eu já conheci 4 brasileiros aqui.
Que incrível! Vocês estão morando aonde?
Aqui a gente tá viajando agora, a gente tá em Porto Seguro, mas a gente vai voltar para Recife depois.
Ah, muito legal. Prazer conhecê-los.
Obrigada. Tchau.
Tchau.
Obrigada. Então, Ana, thank you so much for your time and for sharing your valuable insights with us today. So, Carla, I don't know if you can help me to...
Yes, sure. Hear me well?
I don't hear you well.
I don't know why. Okay, can you hear it or not? Ana, not hearing.
The volume is very low, Carla.
Yes, the volume is very low. So I think we don't have enough time, but Ana, thank you very much for your time, for sharing your insights, your experience with us. Thank you. And I think that's all, guys. So you can go to your class, and that's all. Thank you very much, Ana.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the invitation. It was so great, like getting to know Genuine, and I wish you the best of luck. And I hope my advices were helpful. And yes, have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Really helpful.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Tchau.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Arthur. Ciao.